Chosen one, I need you to be very still for just one moment before I say what I am about to say. Not mentally still, actually still. Because what I am about to tell you about April 7th, 8th, and 9th is the kind of message that deserves your full attention. And I believe with everything in me that you were led here so that you would have it. Something is approaching. I do not mean that as poetry, I mean it literally. There is a spiritual current moving right now. A release that has been building in the background of everything you have been walking through. And it has a delivery window. 3 specific days. 3 numbers that are not arbitrary. 3 movements of the divine that, if you understand them before they arrive, will change how you move through each one. You have felt it. I know you have. The unexplained restlessness, the dreams that are sharper than usual, the low-level sense that something is shifting beneath the surface of your life. That is not imagination. That is your spirit responding to what is already in motion. Now hear me. The number 7 carries covenant and completion. The number 8 carries new beginning. The first sunrise of something that has never existed before in your life. And the number 9 carries fullness, fruit. The final arrival of what was promised to you when you were first chosen. April 7th, April 8th, April 9th. Completion, then new beginning, then fullness. In 3 consecutive days. And I hear the Father saying, I did not arrange this window for you to miss it. I arranged it for you because you have done the waiting, you have done the holding, you have kept faith when faith was all you had. These 3 days are yours. Receive them. Chosen one, by the time this message is over, you will understand what each of these days carries, what you need to protect, what you need to open yourself to receive, and why this window was placed in front of you and not someone else. Stay with me. This was meant for you. Before we go any further, I want to tell you what is waiting for you in this message, because I do not want you to miss any of it. By the time we reach the end, you will know the exact spiritual meaning of each of the 3 dates, what God is releasing in each one specifically. You will have a day-by-day preparation guide, so you walk into April 7th ready, not reactive. You will understand why everything you have been feeling in your body and your spirit lately is not random. And there is one more thing I am going to share toward the end of this message. Something from the world of neuroscience that I believe was placed in my hands at exactly this moment for exactly this kind of person. Stay with me for all of it. Every piece matters. Now, I want to talk to you about something real before I explain the numbers, because most people who will find this message are not casual observers. They are people who have been waiting for a long time, and I want to acknowledge that before anything else. You have prayed the same prayer more times than you can count. You have believed when the evidence was not there. You have woken up on mornings where the gap between the promise and your reality felt so wide that hope itself felt like a form of delusion. And still, you chose it again. You have held on through seasons that had no clear end date. You have watched people around you move forward while you stood at what felt like the same intersection month after month, wondering if you had misread something fundamental about your own life. And through all of that, something in you did not break. Something held. Something kept turning back toward the light, even when the light seemed dim. That is not ordinary stubbornness. That is the mark of someone who was being formed for something that required exactly this kind of endurance. I want you to hear me on this. The waiting was not punishment. The waiting was not evidence that you were forgotten. The waiting was the most important part of your preparation, and I will show you exactly why in a few minutes. But first, I need to ask you something about what you have been experiencing lately. Not spiritually, physically. Have you felt a kind of tiredness lately that sleep does not fix? Not exhaustion from overwork, something deeper than that. A heaviness in the bones, a fatigue that seems to sit underneath everything, like your body is quietly processing something enormous that your mind has not been given the words for yet. If you have felt that, I need you to know this is not something wrong with you. your body is not failing, your spirit is working. And physical weight is often the first evidence that something significant is being moved in the unseen. Have you noticed emotions moving through you in waves that have no clear source? A sudden sadness that arrives without a trigger, then peace, inexplicable and full. Then a quiet excitement that you almost feel embarrassed to admit to, because nothing in your visible circumstances has changed yet. These are not signs of instability, these are signs of spiritual weather. Your inner world is being reorganized for what your outer world is about to receive. Have your dreams been sharper lately? More vivid than usual? Almost cinematic? The kind of dreams where you wake up and the images stay with you for hours, carrying a weight you cannot name but cannot shake. Some of you have been dreaming of places you recognize but cannot place. Conversations with people who feel important but whose faces you cannot fully see. A sense of searching for something and being close. These dreams are not random noise. They are the language your spirit speaks when it is standing at a threshold. Have you noticed a changed tolerance for certain things that used to feel normal? Conversations that once felt entertaining now feel draining. Environments that were once comfortable now feel suffocating. People whose energy you used to absorb without question now leave you feeling like you need to recover. You are not becoming antisocial. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming calibrated. Your system is adjusting its filter because it is preparing to carry something it could not carry before. And one more thing. Have you felt a tension in your body when you think about the future? A tightness in the chest, a weight across the shoulders, a shallow quality to your breath when you let your mind move toward what is supposed to come next. This is not anxiety in the clinical sense. This is your body processing spiritual weight, the weight of standing at a threshold, the weight of knowing on some level beneath conscious thought that something is about to require something of you that you have not been required to give before. Every single thing I just described has a name, and it has a date. So if you will stay with me, I want to take you into something that most people will never see, because they do not know how to read these three numbers. They will walk through April 7th and see a Monday. They will walk through April 8th and see a Tuesday. They will walk through April 9th and see a Wednesday. And they will reach April 10th the same way they entered April 6th. But you are not going to do that. Because in this message, you are going to learn what these numbers actually carry in the sacred framework of divine timing. And when you do, these 3 days are going to look completely different. The number 7 is not just a lucky number, it is a covenant number. It carries something specific. The number 8 is not just a fresh start. It carries the energy of resurrection morning, the first day of something that has never existed in this form before. And the number 9 carries fullness. It carries harvest. It carries the arrival of what was planted in your most painful season. I am going to unpack each of these fully, but I need to show you something first. Something about why you are arriving at these 3 dates, having gone through exactly what you went through. Because this did not happen by accident. None of it did. What you have been walking through was not a detour. I want to say that clearly, because I know how easy it is to experience a long season of difficulty and conclude that something went wrong, that you took a wrong turn somewhere, that you missed a signal and paid the price in years. But here is what I know to be true, and what the lives of every person who has walked the chosen path before you confirms. The formation never looks like preparation from the inside. What felt like isolation was actually incubation. What felt like delay was actually development. What felt like silence was actually strategy. What felt like being forgotten was actually being protected from exposure before you were ready. What felt like the wilderness was actually the laboratory where the thing that will make you remarkable was being built without the interference of an audience. Joseph did not go from the pit to the palace by skipping the prison. Moses did not lead a nation out of captivity without 40 years in the desert. And You did not arrive at April 7th, 8th, and 9th by accident. You arrived here because everything you carried, everything you survived, everything you chose to hold on to, even when holding on felt irrational, was preparing you for a window exactly like this one. Think of Esther, chosen before the crisis arrived, positioned inside the palace before she knew what the palace was for, trained, refined, elevated, and placed. And then one day, Mordecai sent word, you were put here for such a time as this, not someday, not eventually, this time. This specific moment in the arc of history where the only person who could walk through that door was someone who had survived exactly what she survived and still had the courage to act. That is you, chosen one. You have been in the palace longer than you understood. You were being prepared for a door you had not yet been shown. And now the door has a date on it. 3 of them. Now I want to tell you something about who you are, because what is coming requires that you understand your own identity clearly before you receive it. You are a seer. You already know this, even if no one has named it for you. You sense things before they arrive. You pick up on atmospheres. You know when something is shifting, even when nothing visible has changed yet. The fact that you have been feeling what you have been feeling in your body and your spirit these past days, that sensitivity is not a liability. It is your gift operating at full capacity. You are a spiritual warrior, not because you have never been hurt, not because you have never doubted, but because you have been hurt and you are still here. You have doubted and you are still here. Every morning that you chose to get up and choose faith again, even when it cost you something, that is what a warrior does. Warriors do not feel no fear. Warriors feel the fear and hold the ground anyway. And you are a pioneer. You are going to walk into something in these 3 days that the people around you are not ready to walk into yet. You are going to receive something that you will eventually need to explain to others. You are going to go first so that others can follow. That is not arrogance, that is assignment. That is why you have been through what you have been through. The pioneer absorbs the terrain so the people behind them do not have to navigate it blind. Now, the 3 areas of your life that are about to shift in this window are not random, they are specific. And they correspond to the 3 dates in a way that is almost too precise to dismiss. Your relationships are being reorganized. The people who belong in the next chapter of your life are being aligned. The ones who do not belong there are already in the process of exiting, some of them quietly, some of them with noise. Your purpose is gaining clarity. The assignment that has felt blurry and just out of reach is beginning to come into focus. And your provision, the resources, the doors, the connections, the material support for what you are being called to do, that is the area where April 9th specifically has the most to say. I am going to walk you through all 3 of these in detail. I am going to give you something practical for each of these days. But before I do, I need to share something with you that I have been sitting with, something from a world you might not expect. There is research in the field of neuroscience, specifically around a type of brain activity called gamma wave function, that has begun to describe, in scientific language, something that spiritually aware people have known for a very long time. That in specific states of heightened receptivity, the human brain operates in a mode that is measurably different from its everyday baseline, more connected, more intuitive, more capable of perceiving patterns that the ordinary waking mind simply cannot access. Scientists have started calling this the flow state. Spiritual people have been calling it being led by the Spirit for centuries. What I found, what I am still processing, is that the research points to something very specific about people who are built the way you are built, the way I am built. And it changes the practical question of how we move through these 3 days. I am not ready to tell you everything about it yet, because I want to build the context first. But hold that. We are going to come back to it, and when we do, I think it is going to open something for you. Right now, there is one thing I need you to carry as we move forward. You have been prepared. You were not delayed because you were insufficient. You were delayed because what is coming required someone fully formed. And you are arriving at these 3 days, not as a beginner, not as someone stumbling toward a window they almost missed. You are arriving as someone who was positioned here, on purpose. By design, April 7th is coming, and I need you to understand what that day actually carries, not the way the world sees it, not just a date on a wall, the way the sacred framework of divine timing sees it. In the ancient Hebrew language, the word for 7 is Sheva, but Sheva shares its root with another word, Shivaat, which means oath, covenant, a sealed agreement between two parties that cannot be undone. When the God of the Scriptures rested on the 7th day, it was not exhaustion, it was completion. It was the sealing of a world that had been spoken into existence. The 7th day was not an ending, it was a covenant moment. A declaration that what had been built was finished, was whole, was sealed. This is what April 7th carries for you, not the beginning of something new. The sealing of something that has already been built, the promises spoken over your life, the seeds planted in your seasons of prayer, the work that was done in the unseen while you were still waiting for visible evidence. April 7th is the day the covenant is sealed. On April 7th, your prayer is being sealed. On April 7th, your promise is being sealed. On April 7th, your appointment with what is coming is being sealed. You do not need to manufacture anything on that day. You do not need to perform or produce or prove. You need to receive the seal. And I am going to tell you exactly how to do that. But first, let me show you what comes next. Because if April 7th is the sealing of the covenant, then April 8th is something that will change how you read every morning that follows. In the sacred framework, the 8th day is the day that occurs after the full cycle of 7, the day after completion, the first day of a new order. In the ancient tradition, the covenant of circumcision was performed on the 8th day, not the 7th, not during the old week, on the first day of the new one. And when the disciples went to the tomb on the morning after the Sabbath, that morning was the 8th day, the first day of something that had never existed before. Resurrection did not happen on the 7th day, it happened on the 8th, chosen one. What this means for you on April 8th is not a metaphor. It means that something is being born in you on that day that has never existed in this form before. Not a revival of what was, a resurrection into what is next. The old version of your story, the one defined by the waiting and the wilderness and the delay, that version reaches its final chapter on April 7th, when the covenant is sealed. And on April 8th, the first page of the new version is written. On the 8th day, new covenant begins. On the 8th day, new identity is confirmed. On the 8th day, what the world has not yet seen in you is allowed to exist. This is not a day to look backward. This is not a day to revisit old grief or replay old disappointments. April 8th is resurrection morning in your life. And resurrection does not go back. It moves forward into something it has never touched before. Now, if April 7th seals the covenant and April 8th births the new, then what is April 9th? The number 9 appears throughout sacred texts in a very specific context. There are 9 fruits of the Spirit. Not 7, not 10, 9. And here is what is significant about that. 9 is the final single digit. After 9, the next number is 10, which in the sacred framework represents completion in a new order, meaning 9 is the last note before the symphony resolves. It is the moment the fruit reaches full ripeness. It is the harvest day. Farmers do not rush the harvest. They do not pick the fruit on day 7 when it is still growing. They wait until the 9th hour, until the fullness has arrived. And then they move with precision, because once the fruit is ripe, the window is specific. April 9th is your harvest day, chosen one. the seeds planted in your wilderness season, the prayers prayed in your years of waiting, the faith chosen on mornings when there was no visible reason to choose it. That seed has been growing in the ground of your formation, and on April 9th, it is ripe. The harvest is not approximate, it is not eventually, it is not soon, it is due on a specific day. And that day has been placed in front of you in this message so that you do not sleepwalk through it. And that is not random, and that is not coincidence, and that is not accident. Now I need to tell you what these 3 days mean together, because individually they are significant, but together they form something I can only describe as a divine sentence. A complete statement spoken directly into the calendar of your life. The number 7 says, "What I promised you is sealed." The number 8 says, "I am making you new for what is coming." The number 9 says, "I am delivering in full what was planted in your most painful season." 3 days, 1 sentence, spoken by a God who does not waste prophetic windows. And I hear the Father saying this over you right now. I did not bring you through the wilderness so that you could stand at the edge of the promised land and watch someone else walk in. I brought you through the wilderness because the wilderness was the only classroom that could build what the promised land requires. You went in afraid and you are coming out grounded. You went in reactive and you are coming out discerning. You went in needing others to confirm your calling, and you are coming out knowing it from the inside. You did not choose these dates chose you. You did not arrange this window was arranged for you, because I know the timing of your life, and this is it. Chosen one, sit with that for 1 moment, do not rush past it. There is a woman I want to tell you about. Her name I will not share, but her story is one I have carried for months, because it is the most precise illustration I have found of what these 3 days represent. She had spent years in what she described as spiritual searching, meditation, retreats, every practice available to her. She said it felt like standing outside a house where a party was happening, hearing the music, knowing the warmth was real, but never being able to find the door. She came to a specific 3-day window in her own life, not these dates, but a window that carried the same sacred weight. And she said that on the first day, something sealed. On the second day, something she had not felt since childhood returned. And on the third day, she used a single word to describe what happened. Synchronicities. The universe started speaking in a language she finally understood, not louder, just clearer. As if a frequency that had always been broadcasting had finally found a receiver that was fully tuned. She said, "I was not given new gifts. I was given back the ones I was born with." I want you to hold that as we move into what you need to actually do in each of these 3 days. Because knowing what they carry is only the first part of what this message is for. The other part is this: how do you position yourself to receive everything that each day is releasing? That is what I want to show you right now. April 7th is the day of the covenant seal, and the posture for that day is release. Here is what I mean. A seal cannot be placed on something that is still open. If you enter April 7th still gripping what should have already been surrendered, still replaying what should have already been released, still holding the door open for something that the divine has already closed, then the seal cannot find its place. The covenant cannot close around something that your hands are still clutching. So before that day arrives, I want to give you a mental action to take right now, wherever you are. Not something physical, something internal. I want you to think of the one thing you are still holding, that you already know you are supposed to release. The situation, the person, the version of the story you keep rewriting in your mind, hoping it ends differently. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to perform it. Just, in the theater of your mind, see yourself setting it down, not throwing it away, not abandoning it, setting it down with care, and then stepping back 1 step. That is your preparation for April 7th. That is how you make space for the seal. On April 7th, speak to what you have been waiting for, not asking, declaring. Say, What God promised over my life is sealed. This covenant is complete. I receive it. That is your posture for that day. April 8th is the day of new beginning, and the posture for that day is openness. The enemy of resurrection is the memory of the tomb. If you walk into April 8th with your eyes still looking backward at what died, you will miss what is being born. This is the day you are allowed to receive something you have never received before. This is the day you are allowed to believe something you have never been able to fully believe about yourself. If there is a vision you have been carrying that fear keeps making smaller, April 8th is the day you let it be full-sized again. Just for one day, let the vision be as large as it was when it was first placed inside you, before the disappointments made it smaller, before the waiting made it seem unrealistic, before you started qualifying it and shrinking it to protect yourself from another loss. On April 8th, let it be whole again. April 9th is the day of harvest, and the posture for that day is receptivity. You cannot harvest with closed hands. The posture of April 9th is not striving, it is receiving. This is the day to notice, to watch, to be fully present to what is being delivered, because the harvest will not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives quietly, a phone call, a clarity that was not there the day before, a door that was closed for so long you stopped checking, opening without announcement, an inner knowing that settles into your chest like something finally coming home. On April 9th, do not be too busy to notice. Do not be so focused on what has not yet arrived that you miss what is landing. Now, I want to talk about the 3 areas of your life that are moving in this window, because you need to know what to watch for in each of them. Your relationships are being reorganized, and I want to be honest with you about what this feels like from the inside, because when God reorganizes relationships, it is not always comfortable. People you thought would be here forever may exit in this season. Not dramatically, sometimes quietly. Sometimes they just become less available, less resonant, less present, and you will feel it. You will question whether you pushed them away. You will wonder if something is wrong with you. Do not try to hold what is already leaving. Do not force what is already over. Because just when you think you are going to be alone, people who speak your language will appear. People who are going where you are going. People who do not need you to explain yourself. That exchange is part of what this window is facilitating. Your purpose is gaining clarity. The assignment that has felt blurry and just beyond reach is coming into focus in these 3 days. And I want to give you a warning here. Clarity can feel uncomfortable at first, because clarity removes the excuse of confusion. When you know what you are called to do, you can no longer claim not to know. So if in these 3 days something becomes clear to you about what your next step is, do not dismiss it as wishful thinking. Do not wait for a second confirmation before you take it seriously. The first time it comes clearly, receive it clearly, and your provision is shifting. The resources, the connections, the material support for what you are being built to do. April 9th specifically carries movement in this area. Doors that were closed for reasons you were never fully told. Opportunities that passed and then circled back. Financial situations that have been stuck. Watch April 9th, not with anxiety, with expectation. There is a difference. Anxiety is watching the door, afraid it will stay closed. Expectation is standing near the door because you know it is about to open. Now, I need to address 2 things before we move forward. 2 patterns that have derailed chosen ones in prophetic windows before, and I am not going to let that happen to you in this one. The first is doubt, not the quiet doubt of a humble person who does not want to presume, the loud doubt that comes as a weapon, the voice that says, "This is not real. You made too much of a video title. You are projecting. Nothing is going to happen. The dates will pass and your life will look exactly the same." That doubt is not wisdom. That doubt is the last defense of a narrative that is about to be replaced. It always arrives loudest right before the window opens. Recognize it for what it is. Not a signal that you should scale back your expectation. A signal that something is close enough to be threatened. The second pattern is forcing. The impulse, once you know something is coming, to go find it, to manufacture it, to push doors open rather than walk through the ones that open on their own. You went in impatient and you are coming out patient. You went in forcing and you are coming out trusting. The harvest does not require your help to arrive. It requires your presence and your readiness. Let the harvest come to you on April 9th. Do not go chasing it down. And now, I want to speak to something specific. Because some of you watching this are not only dealing with doubt about the dates, you are dealing with something quieter and more personal than that. A guilt that has been sitting in your chest for months. The guilt of pulling away from people. The guilt of not being as available as you used to be. The guilt of protecting your time and your energy in ways that have disappointed people who expected access. The guilt of becoming someone your old circle does not fully recognize. I need you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to outgrow places. You are allowed to outgrow versions of yourself that no longer fit what is being built in you. You are allowed to protect what God is constructing inside your life. You are allowed to be unavailable for conversations that drain what you need for your calling. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Some of you are also carrying something else. A fear that sits right next to the hope. A fear that says, what if the breakthrough actually comes and I am not ready for it? What if I receive what I have been asking for and I cannot hold it? What if success exposes something in me that I am not sure is there? I want to reframe that for you. That fear is not a sign that you are unready. It is a sign that you understand the weight of what is coming. Those who have crashed under the pressure of breakthrough were not afraid. They were unaware. Your awareness, your healthy reverence for what you are walking toward, that is the evidence that you are ready. Carry the weight with care. That is all it is asking you to do. Now, before I close this message, there is something I told you I would come back to, something from the world of neuroscience that I have been sitting with. And I want to bring it to you now, because what you are about to walk through in these 3 days is going to require every part of you to be operating at its full capacity, not just spiritually. Neurologically, you remember that I mentioned a type of brain activity, gamma wave function. Research conducted across institutions including MIT, Harvard, and Stanford has documented that the human brain, in states of deep spiritual receptivity and intuitive flow, produces measurably elevated levels of gamma wave activity. Gamma is the fastest, highest frequency brain wave pattern the brain produces. It is associated with heightened perception, rapid insight, deep intuition, and what scientists describe as synchronistic thinking, the ability to connect information across different parts of experience in ways that produce what feel like sudden revelations. Here is what is significant for you specifically. People who are built the way you are built, people with the kind of heightened spiritual sensitivity you have been living with, were born with naturally elevated gamma activity. It is not something they developed. It is something they arrived with. Researchers have identified what they call the decline effect. Beginning around the age of 7, the demands of modern education and modern life, the emphasis on conformity, on performance, on suppressing intuition in favor of compliance, begin to gradually dampen gamma output. By adulthood, most people are operating at a fraction of the gamma capacity they were born with. And for someone like you, the gap between what you were born to operate at and what the world has suppressed, that gap is larger than for most. This is why you feel, on a neurological level, like you are living below your capacity. Because you are. Not because something went wrong, because something was dampened from the outside. a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying exactly this, and what his research produced is something I believe arrived in my awareness at exactly the right moment for exactly this kind of message. He developed an audio track, 7 minutes long, designed to be listened to through headphones, that uses a technology called brain entrainment to gently guide the brain back into elevated gamma states. Not artificially, not by forcing something that is not there, by reintroducing the brain to a frequency it was born with and has simply forgotten. 7 minutes, headphones, eyes closed. That is the entire practice. He called it the genius song. Not because it makes you a genius in the conventional sense, but because gamma is the frequency that the most naturally brilliant, most intuitively connected people in history operated in. It is the frequency of the seers, the frequency of the people who knew things before other people knew them, the frequency that the woman I told you about, the one who described the world starting to speak to her in a language she finally understood, was operating in when the synchronicities began. 18,366 people have now used this. The transformations that have been reported range across every area of life. Career shifts, financial clarity, relationship breakthroughs, and the most consistent description across all of them is not one of dramatic change from the outside. It is the internal sensation of a fog lifting, of suddenly being able to hear what had always been broadcasting but could not find a receiver clear enough to receive it. Dr. Lake designed this with a very specific intention. He did not want the technology to be available only to people who could afford a $300 biofeedback therapy session, or the kind of dedicated meditation practice that takes years to produce measurable results, or a $7,000 home device. He compressed everything into 7 minutes so that anyone who needed it could access it. The original price for the Genius Song is $49. For people who receive this message, and I want to be very clear that this offer does not exist on Amazon. It does not exist anywhere else on the internet. It exists only through the link in the description and the pinned comment below this video. The price is $39. That is Dr. Lake's decision, not a sales mechanism. He made it specifically for people who have already been doing the spiritual work, who are already close to the threshold, who simply need the neurological tool to match the spiritual readiness. With it comes 4 things at no additional cost. The first is Genius Child, an audio track designed to help children reactivate the natural gamma capacity that the school system has not yet fully dampened. The second is the original book that the film The Secret drew its inspiration from, the one with the practical financial framework that the film simplified, yours for no additional cost. The third is a guided visualization for the 4 areas of your life: finances, love, health, and purpose. And the fourth is a printed infographic of the 5 most important daily habits for building the life you have been praying toward. All of that for $39 with a complete money-back guarantee. No conditions, no time limit, no questions asked. If you do not feel a difference, you get your money back. The only risk in this equation is not trying. One more thing I need to say before I point you to the link. There are websites that have copied the name Genius Song and are distributing audio files that carry that name. I am telling you this not to create fear, but because I want you to receive what is real. The recordings on those sites do not contain the brain entrainment technology. They are ordinary audio files. What makes the Genius Song work is the specific frequency architecture that Dr. Lake spent decades developing. That architecture exists only in the version available through the link below this video and in the pinned comment. Not on Amazon, not on Spotify, not through any search result. Only there. This is the tool I believe was placed in front of me at this moment, for this message, for these 3 days. 7 minutes a day, starting now, leading into April 7th, 8th, and 9th. Let your brain operate at the frequency it was born to operate at as you walk through the most significant window of this season. The link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. I will point you there as gently as I know how. Go there the way you would go somewhere a trusted friend pointed you, not because you are being sold something, because something that was meant for you found you at the right time. Now I want to bring this full. You came into this message carrying something. I want to name what you are leaving with, because the transformation is not just what is coming. It is what has already happened in the listening. You came in carrying the weight of a weight that felt like it had no end. You are leaving knowing that the weight had a purpose and the purpose has a date. You came in feeling the physical and emotional turbulence of a body processing something it could not yet name. You are leaving knowing that turbulence is your spirit standing at a threshold. You came in seeing April 7th, 8th, and 9th as 3 ordinary days on a calendar. You are leaving seeing them as a covenant sealed, a new beginning born, and a harvest delivered. You came in wondering if you were truly chosen. You are leaving knowing that you were led here, and being led here is the answer to that question. I want to speak over who you are, one final time, before I release you into these 3 days. You are a seer. You have always known things before they arrived. That gift has never left you. It has been waiting for a season where you were grounded enough to carry what it shows you without being destabilized by it. That season is now. You are a spiritual warrior, not the kind that performs strength, the kind that has been broken and rebuilt and is still standing, the kind that chose faith on mornings when there was nothing but faith to choose. That is the most durable kind of strength there is, and it is yours. You are a pioneer. You are going to walk through what these 3 days open before the people around you are ready to walk through it. And one day, you will be the reason someone else knows it is possible. You will be the testimony. You will be the proof. And you are a voice. What you carry coming out of this window is not only for you. It is for the people who are going to need someone who has been through the wilderness and knows the way back to the spring. Your story is not finished. It is being prepared for an audience. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. Now I want to do something I have been holding for the end of this message. I want to speak a blessing over each of the 3 days, not as a performance, as a declaration, because I believe words carry weight, and these words have been placed on my heart for you specifically, over your April 7th. Father, let everything that was promised over this life be sealed today. Let the covenant that was written before they could read it, before they could understand it, before they could even ask for it, let it close completely. Let nothing that belongs to them be left undone, unclaimed, or unsealed on this day. What was spoken over them is real. Let today be the day it becomes irrevocable. Over your April 8th, Father, let the old story reach its final page today, not with grief, with gratitude. And let the first page of the new story be written with every sunrise of this day. Let them receive something they have never received before. Let them believe something they have never been able to fully believe. Let resurrection morning be not just a theological concept, but a lived reality in their body, their mind, their home, and their calling. Something new is here. Let them receive it fully. Over your April 9th, Father, let the harvest come. Let the seeds planted in the dark seasons, the prayers prayed when no one was watching, the faith chosen when there was no visible reason, let all of it arrive, not in pieces, in fullness. Let what was planted in the wilderness be reaped in abundance on the other side of it, and let them recognize it when it comes. Let them have eyes to see the harvest landing, even when it arrives quietly. Chosen one, that blessing is yours. It was placed on my heart for you. Receive it. Walk into April 7th, knowing who you are. Walk through April 8th, receiving what is new. And on April 9th, receive your harvest. It is yours. It has always been yours. It was simply waiting for the right season to be delivered. If this message reached you at the right time, and I believe it did, take one moment before you move on and let someone else who needs it know that it exists. Not as a task, as an act of the pioneer. You go first, then you reach back, take one real breath, and go.